Hey guys, Colton here. We'll get back to the podcast in just 1 minute. I just wanted to let you know that my new book, 24 Rules of Masculinity, is officially out. If you've been resonating with the topics we've hit on in this podcast, discipline, purpose, identity, what it means to be a man today, this book was built for you. It's a straight-talking guide packed with hard lessons, biblical principles, and the kind of clarity that I think a lot of us are starving for. So whether you're just starting on your journey or looking to get back on track, I wrote this to be something that you can pick up, apply, and carry with you. You can find the 24 Rules of Masculinity on Amazon and through the link in the description. I would love to hear what you guys think. Now, back to the episode. Welcome back to Chasing Masculinity. When did masculine tradition become a punchline? At what point did the image of a man sipping whiskey, lighting a cigar, or grilling a steak stop being respected and start being mocked? Today's episode isn't about indulgence. It's not about rebellion either. It's going to be about redemption, redeeming these rituals that once defined manhood. Whiskey, cigars, and steaks have long stood as this symbol of masculinity, not because of bravado or ego, but because they represented intentionality and presence and this shared experience. These weren't vices, they were tools. Tools for bonding, for reflection, for just slowing down and building something deeper than just small talk. We've lost that. And today, I want to talk about getting it back. This is Chasing Masculinity, the podcast built around helping men develop lives of strength, responsibility, and purpose through these timeless principles. So we're going to talk about what the modern world won't. We're going to press into these hard conversations, and we're not going to apologize for calling men to this higher standard. This episode is going to be a little bit different, but it's no less important because the truth is men need rituals. We need this space to breathe, to connect, and to remember who we are. And we need to stop letting the world turn our traditions into these jokes. Let's anchor today's conversation with a reminder from Scripture. 1 Corinthians 16:13. Be on your guard, stand firm in the faith, be courageous, be strong. Masculinity isn't something to apologize for. It's something to protect, to embody, to pass on to the next generation. Let's talk about what this looks like, even if it smells like smoke and tastes like steak. Let's get into it. So, whiskey, cigars, and steaks. Let's rekindle some masculine stereotypes. Why did I want to talk about this? First, it has to do with ritual. And I want to talk about why ritual matters first. Men typically bond shoulder to shoulder, not face to face. Male friendships are often formed around these sort of shared activities, not this emotional vulnerability. There's more femininity in being face-to-face in your conversations and getting to know somebody, where emotionally men are able to better relate being shoulder-to-shoulder, sharing in some sort of activity. These rituals, they're going to give men permission to be present without the pressure to conform or to confess. Rituals provide a sort of structure and meaning, and they signal this sort of transition as well, where there's responsibility and this sort of shared identity. It's this sense of bonding that can actually help men open up and get to know one another. Think of some of the historical context where this sort of ritualistic behavior has thrived, like in Spartan Syssitia, which means shared meals among warriors. So these Spartan warriors, through these shared meals, created unity and a hierarchical system where their culture could have this continuity. It wasn't just about the food. There were forums, there were discussions for battle, there was honor, there was discipline, there was a structure built around them where they could be present in this almost ritualistic behavior because of the structure that was set for how they could interact and how the hierarchical system placed them in that order of their leaders and such. But through that, they were able to bond and prepare for battle. Same with the Vikings. They had feasts and mead halls. These were places of storytelling and loyalty building. They were honoring the gods and their ancestors together in this sort of structured system where they were there for one reason, but because of that reason, they were able to bond and grow as men. Even the Native Americans, they had sweat lodges. There were rituals for this purification and reflection and masculine endurance. It was done in silence or with guidance from elders. But all of these were rituals for men. Rituals are a place you can have this sort of sacred pause. In a world that, especially today, moves way too fast, rituals are actually going to force men to slow down. Now, these masculine rituals aren't about indulgence. They're about stillness and reverence and some sort of intentionality being in the moment. Think of the Sabbath as the original masculine ritual. Men were usually the ones that had to go out and work the field or herd the sheep or do whatever was required to provide for their family. They were the ones that were usually working back in the time when the Sabbath was introduced. Exodus 28 through 10 says, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. On it you shall do no work." God didn't rest on the seventh day because he was tired. He rested as a model to this rhythm that we're supposed to emulate for worship, to reflect and to connect. In the same way, men need intentional time to stop doing and just to start being a man. And there's some wisdom in this because wisdom begins in silence. Proverbs 17:28, "Even fools are thought wise if they keep silent, and discerning if they hold their tongues." So to grow in wisdom, men have to step away from this distraction and noise. Rituals, whether a quiet smoke or a slow drink or a shared meal, create this stillness where a man can start to listen. He can listen to God. He can listen to his brothers, or maybe he just needs to listen to himself. And these rituals also build brotherhood. Men don't bond face-to-face over feelings. They're going to bond shoulder to shoulder through action and through presence, just being simply present. These rituals, like the Sabbath, are about alignment, not escape. Alignment with God, alignment with your values, alignment with other men, other brothers on the same journey as you. You cannot rush into depth with other men. You have to take it slow. Anyone who's connected through any level of mentorship or has seen the different interactions between two females able to go into a mentorship role and dive deep much faster than most men are probably comfortable doing. This is why rituals matter. The men need to slow down together. In ancient Hebrew tradition, Sabbath wasn't just personal, it was communal. Men gathered with their family and their friends and the broader community to reflect, to worship and eat and remember who they were. It's a time to cease striving and remember God's provision. This principle of sacred space carries over. A cigar, a steak, a fire, a glass of whiskey, these are not inherently holy, but they can be used to set holy ground when shared with reverence and purpose. They can be used in a ritualistic manner to slow down and to be present, to stop working and to start being. Today's culture offers so many different distractions, but not a lot of depth. So reclaiming these masculine rituals is about taking dominion over your time, saying, I will stop, I will listen, I will gather with my brothers, and I will hear what God is saying. When other men embrace ritual as a form of Sabbath for the soul, they're also going to begin to sharpen each other, not just with opinions, but simply with their presence. So the key takeaway to rituals: true masculine growth doesn't happen when men are busy. It happens when they stop and listen and reflect and share
this sort of sacred space that they can create with other men. And the reason men need these today is, in our modern world, we've kind of made masculine rituals taboo or trivialized them as this sort of indulgence. Rituals allow men to slow down and access deeper parts of themselves. Think of Ecclesiastes 5:1-2. Guard your steps when you go into the house of the Lord. Let your words be few. So slowing down as this form of reverence for God, listening and stillness open the door to wisdom and often brotherhood. So now I want to get into the specifics of whiskey, cigars, and steaks. Let's start with whiskey. There's patience, there's depth, there's refinement for anybody who's really enjoyed a good whiskey. And I want to open up that symbolism of what tasting a good whiskey is like to how we can apply it to a greater context of how we could slow down in this ritualistic manner. Whiskey it's aged. It's aged in a barrel. It's not rushed. And this maturity for men also comes through time and pressure and care. Masculinity is the same. It's developed. It's not performed. Think of the qualities of a good whiskey versus a good man. For whiskey, it's aged with time. And for masculinity, wisdom is gained through experience. It takes time. Whiskey is distilled for purity. Masculinity is refined in a similar manner through hardship. And a good whiskey is going to have this complex flavor profile. Masculinity has this multi-layered character. There's a multifaceted approach to make yourself a better man. Whiskey, you're sipping, you're not gulping it. And for a masculine man, you're controlled, you're not impulsive. And a good whiskey, it's rooted in tradition. And masculinity is anchored in your legacies and your values. There's also links to the cultural and historical role of whiskey. It was used in signing treaties and tribal councils and diplomatic negotiations. This breaking of bread became sharing a drink among warriors and leaders. Whiskey wasn't about this escapism to forget your problems. It was marked in moments of decision and reflection and bonding. Now, fair warning, this is not a call to drink. It is a call to reclaim symbolism. Whiskey becomes destructive only when it's used to numb rather than to sharpen. The ritual of drinking responsibly can symbolize self-control and respect and patience. A good man is like a good whiskey, not flashy, but unforgettable. Proverbs 21, wine is a mocker, strong drink a brawler, and whoever is led astray by it is not wise. So, I want to emphasize, wisdom is knowing when and how and why, not just what. Now I want to get into cigars, the next part of this. Cigars symbolize slowing down and creating a space. Think of the nature of cigar culture. Cigar isn't rushed. It requires preparation and patience and a presence. Unlike cigarettes, where they're quick hits, cigars invite this long-form conversation. They're usually used in times of celebration for that exact reason. It's associated with key life moments, celebrating a birth, or sealing a deal, or even mourning a death. Transitional masculine moments. Now, what are some cigar traits that are similar to masculine traits? Cigar trait would be long burning. Well, a masculine trait would be enduring the presence. Cigars require tending, and masculinity requires discipline. Cigars are to be savored, not just inhaled. Masculinity means you're pondering life as it's meant to be. You're not just trying to rush through it. And for cigars, the smoke is thick and it leaves its mark. And a true masculine man has an influence that lingers. There's also a social ritual for the cigar. There's cigar lounges. They're kind of the modern campfires for men. They once used to encourage this honesty and storytelling and even just a shared silence among brothers. And it was a space where performance just drops and brotherhood can start to emerge. I like to think of Psalm 141:2 as a theological parallel to this. Let my prayer be counted as incense for you. So there's smoke rising, and that equals the symbol of intention and sacrifice. Cigar smoke, when done intentionally, mirrors this slow, sacred offering. You're giving your time to others or to yourself. Now, another warning, this isn't a pitch for nicotine. I'm actually very anti-smoking. But it is about ritual and presence and intention and the loss of masculine stillness in modern life. Some men are going to run away from silence. Others sit in it and listen. So smoke, it rises slowly. So should wisdom. The last part of this is stakes, and that is provision and mastery and satisfaction. The oldest fire-born ritual, cooking meat over a fire. It's one of the earliest masculine traditions. Historically, men hunted and butchered and prepared the meat to feed their tribe or family. This, again, wasn't about indulgence. It was about provision and about sacrifice. In Genesis 27:3-4, Isaac tells Esau, take your weapons and hunt game for me. Prepare me the kind of tasty food I like. There's biblical manhood involved in this provision and celebration around food. Breaking bread is a pretty common theme throughout Scripture. So this provision and service. A man at the grill isn't just playing with fire. He's taking on a role. He's the provider. He's bringing sustenance to the table. And he's a craftsman. He's learning technique, improving quality, taking pride in the result. He's also a servant leader. He's feeding others, especially his family and his brothers. Steaks become this symbolic mastery of how well we can serve others under our care. And this skill is a reflection of masculinity. Cooking teaches patience and awareness and attention to detail, all marks of masculine discipline. Mastering food shows this level of intentionality, not just eating to survive, not just burning your chicken and rice. It is about care and preparation. A man who can cook demonstrates this sort of self-sufficiency as well as hospitality. There's also family and hearth. So in today's world, many homes lack a central gathering point. The grill or dinner table should be one of them, where a man provides and brings people together. Build a home worth coming home to. What better way to show your family or your spouse or your friends or whoever you have in your life that they are valued than to prepare a meal with care and presence? So this provision, it is masculine. So is mastery. If you can't feed others, you're not really leading well. So start with a steak. Now, I want to talk about all of these together again and the redeeming qualities versus the idolizing qualities that they possess. So these are traditions. They're tools. They're not requirements. Whiskey, cigars, and steaks are not what make men masculine. They're symbols. They're not definitions. They can either become instruments of intention or they can easily become idols of indulgence. And that vice begins where the purpose ends. So some warning signs. If you're saying, I need a drink, that just becomes escapism. I need to cope becomes a dependency. And I eat to feel good becomes gluttony. 1 Corinthians 6:12 says, all things are permissible, but not all things are beneficial. Are you using the ritual to grow or to numb? Are you masking this good thing for something that you're trying to indulge out of or that has become idolatrous in your life? So there is intentional versus indulgent natures. A mature man sets boundaries around his rituals. He drinks in moderation and has that gratitude and presence. And he smokes only when it promotes reflection or bonding, not as this sort of addiction. And again, you feast occasionally, not constantly. The key distinction is indulgence is going to say, I deserve this. Where discipline is going to say, this serves a purpose. So avoid this weakness disguised as masculinity. Don't mistake consumption for character. You don't earn masculinity by acquiring symbols. You build it through the meaning that they produce. Masculine rituals should be sharpening you, not sedating you. So how can we apply these rules? First, host a men's night. Gather a few trusted brothers for a steak and a whiskey and have an open conversation. It doesn't have to be a steak and a whiskey. It can be anything. Just have them over and open up that level of ritualistic behavior to grow with them. Center the gathering with a theme where you're reading scripture or asking deep questions, and focus on the presence, not just this performance. You can create a weekly ritual. Every Friday night, pour a small drink and journal on your week. You can include gratitude and accountability and planning, and anchor it with some sort of scripture or silence or prayer. You can also do a cigar walk. Go for a long walk with a cigar, no phone. Reflect and pray, and let the slow pace pull you into this mindfulness. Use it as a weekly or monthly Sabbath-styled rest. And then you can practice hospitality around food. Learn to grill, learn to serve. Take pride in preparing meals for others. Again, it doesn't have to be steak, and it doesn't have to be a grill. What it symbolizes is the intentionality of you preparing and serving and leading others. This hospitality, it isn't feminine. It's kingly. Proverbs 15:17, better a meal of vegetables where there is love than a fattened calf with hatred. So here are some journaling prompts for those who have decided that this is the mantle where they're able to better themselves. You can think or write about what rituals in my life build strength, identity, and clarity. Where have I let symbols of masculinity become idols? Do my practices serve others or just myself? And when was the last time I was fully present with other men? You don't need whiskey, you don't need cigars, you don't need to eat or even like steak to be a man. But if you use them with discipline and presence and purpose, these sort of things can remind you of what a man was always meant to be. Masculinity, it's not measured in meat and smoke. It's not in the glass you raise, the cigar you light, or the steak that you grill. It is the intentionality behind your actions. These things are not props. They're reminders of presence, reminders of purpose, reminders of provision. They remind us to slow down, to gather, to reflect, to create space where men sharpen men, to sit in stillness and listen before we speak. We don't light a cigar to prove something, we light it to pause. You don't grill a steak to flex, you grill it to serve. You don't pour the whiskey to escape, but to reflect. So here's your call to action. Create or reclaim one meaningful masculine ritual this week and make it intentional. Make it something that slows you down and reminds you of who you are. And share it with a brother. Invite him into your space, into your fire, because this world doesn't need more men performing masculinity. It needs more men practicing it. Don't forget to keep chasing masculinity, not as a costume to wear, but as a calling to live. I'll see you guys next time.